Hello everyone, in this video we will explain the exception. So now this code, for example, we wrote it in the previous lesson. So enter your birth year. The user should enter a valid year. But what if the user type a character instead of a number? So now as you can see, we have an exception or an error. So format exception. This is the type of exception or type of error. So the exception, it is the errors that occur in the runtime. So now in the compile time, which means the code I wrote it is perfect. It has no mistake. But the error occurred in the runtime, which means after we run the code. So now, how we handled this exception? We can handle it by using a try catch. So for example, if we type try and then open the curly braces and then use catch in this way. Now, this code, we can make it inside the try. So now all these codes is inside the try. So he will try to execute these codes. If there is any error occurred, so he will catch this error here and, for example, print the message of the error. Okay, so now again start debugging. Now as you can see, enter your birth year. For example, I'll type a character, not a number. If I click on enter, as you can see, format exception. Now the important thing is he will not give me an error. He just print the message of the error. He catch the error inside the E, so he will store the message of the error in the E. And then print E, he will print format exception, which is the type of the exception. So now for example, we can print anything. So for example, we can print invalid value or anything you want, and then I can use error message and then the value of the error message. Okay, so now how we can allow the user to try again? So now if the error occurred, okay, the user gets this message and then we should allow him to try again. So how we can do this? We can do this by something that can repeating. For sure it is a loop. So for example, the simplest way to do that using an infinite loop. So for example, the simplest way to make infinite loop using while true. So now while true, this means an infinite loop. So all these codes we can put it inside the while loop. But this code will execute until infinity. So when we want to break the while, when we want to finish the code, we want to finish it after the user type the right value or type a valid value, which is a number. So for example, here, if all these codes work correctly, now at the end we just use break and then semicolon. Now we can check the code. So again, start debugging. Now as you can see, enter your birth year. For example, if I type a character and then hit enter, as you can see, invalid value, the result of this line, and then error message, format exception, as you can see, format exception, and then finally enter your birth year again, because it is an infinite loop. So he will not stop unless all these codes executed correctly. So unless it reach to this line only will stop the loop or stop the code. So now again, enter your birth year. If I type something random, as you can see, invalid value, error message, enter your birth year again. So now if I type it correctly, your age is 23 years old, and then stop the program. Also, we can use a specific catch. So for example here, we can use on, and then we can specify the type of the exception. So for example, format exception. And then finally here, for example, we can use catch E and then print this message, error message equal to E. Now if we reformat the code, okay, so what's the meaning of this? You can use this code only when you know exactly what is the type of the exception. So if I am sure 100% that the type of the exception that could occur here is a format exception, we can use a catch specified to this exception type. So on format exception, when the format exception occur, print or execute this line. And this catch finally at the end used to catch any type of exception. So now again, if we start debugging, now as you can see, enter your birth year. Now if I type anything randomly, as you can see, invalid value. Now invalid value, it means that this on format exception executed.